Hey there, and welcome to math class. In this video, we are going to learn to add and subtract decimals. So let's title our page accordingly. Add and subtract decimals. And you will need 3 copies of your grid paper that we've been using for different things, not just decimals, but some graphing. This is item number 22. And again, you need 3 copies of those. Because lining things up when you add and subtract decimals is incredibly important. So let me make a copy of this so I can not have to go back to the drawing board to get that. And let's take a look at the first example. I want to do an addition problem, so we're finding a sum. And the add-ins are 62 1/10 and 9 625 thousandths. So those are the add-ins. We want to find the sum of these numbers. So to do that, I'm going to line up my first number here in the grid. Have 62 1/10, and then I have 9 625 thousandths. So just like we did when we were comparing and ordering decimals, I want to line these up on the decimal point so that all of the places line up. The tenths place is lined up. The ones place is lined up. And then I'm going to put some zeros in as placeholders just to square this problem up. And let me draw a line so that we can add our numbers. Once you get that done, you get everything lined up, you just add like you would any other problem. So 0 and 5, you want to work right to left, just like you do with regular addition. Bring down the decimal point. You can carry numbers just like you do with regular addition. So this answer, this sum, comes up to be 71 725 thousandths. Okay, so let me put that answer right here, 71 725 thousandths. And guys, I'm going to check myself on the calculator just because I know that this gives me trouble sometimes. It's the lining up that gives me trouble. And when I was teaching classes, I would always have my students to double check my work. So if they were getting the same answer, I knew I was okay. But since I can't talk to you guys, that's a little bit hard to do. Okay, here is another example. In this one, I want to do 46 9/10 minus 3 428 thousandths. So the minuend is 46.9, the subtrahend is 3.428, and we are going to find the difference. In this one, we call that the sum. These were the add-ins. In this one, the minuend and the subtrahend, and we are about to find the difference. And we are about to find the difference between those. So to do this one, I want to line up starting with my larger number, 46.9, and then I am subtracting 3.428. 4 to 8. And I'll use my zeros to hold the places. And then we are ready to subtract. So I do need to borrow. And remember, I've told you before, don't go crazy with borrowing. Just borrow as you need to and take one column at a time. So I'm going to have to go over to the 9 and I'll make that an 8. And I can only go next door. So that becomes a 10. Then I'll take 1 from that 10 to give to this one next door, and I can start to do my subtraction right here. 10 take away 8 is 2. 9 take away 2 is 7. 8 take away 4 is 4. Bring down the decimal. 6 take away 3 is 3. And 4 take away 0 is 4. So I believe this difference is 43.472, but please bear with me and I'll make sure. When the decimals are involved, I can't check in my head as easily. So yes, 43 and 472 thousandths is the difference here. Okay, let's do one more example with the grids, and then I'll show you a calculator example, and I think that'll do it. We won't have to spend a lot of time belaboring this. So here is one more of item 22. If you have children or grandchildren who are learning to subtract, get them some graph paper, and that will help them really to do any of the basic operations. Long division, it's great for long division. Okay, here is an example. I want us to take the number 3 and subtract 7.625. That cannot happen, can it? So let's make this a 13. Just stick a 1 on there. I'm making these up as I go. So it's all right. So 13 is obviously the top number. That's the minuend. And the subtrahend is the 7. And we are going to find the difference. So 13.7.625, and we are subtracting this one. And you can probably see why I wanted to do this one, because this is a whole 13. I'm going to have to add some zeros to hold the place. What you do not want to do is just bring that 625 down. And that's the mistake that I see so often. Students will try to just drop this down, and they'll say that that's 6.625. That is not correct. So let's see how we actually need to do this. First thing you need to do is put those zeros in there, because we need them as placeholders. I cannot take 5 from nothing, so I'm going to come all the way over to the ones place and make that a 2. And then I'll distribute that here to the tenths place as a 10. And I'll tell you what, hang with me just a second. Well, I need to move that down because I don't have room to get all this done. Bear with me, nothing's wrong. I'm just going to slide this down one row so I can do what I need to do. Okay, so I'm going to rename that 10 to a 9 and then give it to this one. Rename that 10 as a 9 and share it with this one. And so now I'm ready to do what I need to do. 10 take away 5 is 5. 9 take away 2 is 7. 9 take away 6 is 3. And then we do need to borrow this 1 and give it to this 12, make that a 12. And 12 take away 7 is 5. And let me just run this through my calculator to be sure I have the right difference. If we could talk to each other, you could tell me if you agree or disagree. So the difference is 5 and 375 thousandths. Okay. All right, this last example, I know you don't have another one of those grids, but that's okay. We'll try it without the grid. So here's the example I want you to do. And you'll see why there's no grid. Find the sum of 0.0009, comma, 3.06, comma, 12.999, comma, and 5. Round your answer to the nearest whole number. I don't have a grid, or I didn't give you a grid, that will hold all of these. So we're just going to do this without a grid. You won't have a grid on the test, so this is actually good practice. So let's take these numbers and start lining them up. The first one is 9 ten-thousandths. 9 ten-thousandths. 3 6/100ths. 12 999 thousandths. And then 5, which is a whole 5 with a decimal after it if you put the decimal in. So I've lined these numbers up on their decimal point. And I'm going to put in the zeros. I miss the grid, guys. This is very, very weird for me without a grid. But let's put the zeros in there to hold those places. You want to square this problem off so that everything lines up just so. If you don't have the grid, this is even more important, that you get all of that lined up properly. Okay, the key word is sum. That means add. So let's find the sum. In this first column, I have a 9, a 9. 6 and 9 make 15, so I carry 1. 9 and 1 make 10, so I carry 1. 5 and 5, 10 plus 1 more is 11, so I carry 1. And that leaves me with 2. So let me check this before we do any rounding. You don't want to do the rounding on the wrong answer. So 9 ten-thousandths, excuse me. See what I mean? 3.06, 12 999 thousandths, and 5. And yes, that comes out to be the answer. So my answer is 21.0599. That is the sum. Round to the nearest whole number. So the point of reference is the whole number. That's the 1. And we look at the neighbor. Neighbor says stay. So we are going to call this 21. And that is the answer I'm looking for. If you give me 21.0599, that would be incorrect because they clearly tell us to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, hopefully you have a good idea about how to add and subtract decimals. There is a practice workbook page for these, so I'll see you in that video and we will practice more of these. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.